Good evening. Good evening, everyone. We'll call this meeting of Fairfield County Council to order, Monday, August 27, 2018, 6 p.m. First item is the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
So, seconded.
It's been moved and properly seconded that council approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? By a vote of 6-0, the agenda is approved. Invocation, Councilmember Robinson, please.
Let us bow our heads. All wise and everlasting God, our Heavenly Father, once again the citizens of Fairfield County have gathered for the betterment of our home. Father God, I'm asking you to bless the ones that have made this appointment. I'm asking you to bless the ones that were unable to make it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilmember Robinson. Next, we have the approval of minutes from our last regular meeting, August 13, 2018. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion has been made and properly seconded that council approve the minutes as presented from the regular meeting of August 13, 2018. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? By a vote of 6-0, those minutes are approved. We have no public presentations for tonight. However, we have public comment. Ms. Davis.
Tonight we have 10 who wish to speak. First, Ms. Lisa Brandenburg, speaking on Fairfield County Administration Building.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Lisa Brandenburg, District 7. Do I need this? You done started my time, Mr. Anderson. Anyway, open hearts makes for open minds, which will lead us to prosperity. And I would like to thank Mr. Taylor, Mr. Anderson, and Mr. Davenport for following all economic development leads with an open mind, and your hard work and perseverance will pay off. To the council, I ask that you please focus on our big picture and get a strong plan in place to complete our infrastructure so that we can get business and industry in here for our citizens. I ask that we live within our means. Now is not the time for a new administration building. We will not even own that building, and I don't feel that there has been transparency in this process. We only get bits and pieces as it's being put together and what we hear that has come out of executive session. We know how grants, tax credits, and leases can turn out. Please look out for us as the taxpayers. We do not want to be left holding the bag again. Please conserve our resources so that when that big economic opportunity does come to Fairfield County, that we can land it and all of our citizens can prosper. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next, Ms. Pam Smith, speaking on Mount Zion.
I am Pamela Lofton Smith. I live at the corner of Hudson Street and North Zion. I was born here, moved away for a long time, moved to Florida, and then decided to retire and bought my retirement home. And I'm very concerned about the activities going on around my entire retirement home. My husband would have been here tonight, but he had another obligation. In addition to the home we live in, we own two other properties, one directly behind Mount Zion School where my sister used to live. She has some emotional issues, and she was stressing out about everything going on, so we moved her into an apartment, and we're going to try to sell that property, but we have been assured it's going to be a long, hard road, especially with the plans that, unfortunately, I think are in place for that property. And we also own another property a couple blocks on down the street. So we are integrated into this community for sure. I'm very frustrated and have experienced a lot of anxiety about what is being planned for the Mount Zion property. I think it is a residential community, and I think it needs to be treated as such. I think it's totally inappropriate to put a county offices or daycare or gym or all the other things that I hear through the grapevine that are going on. I haven't, until this afternoon, have not had a personal conversation with anybody about it, but I do appreciate all the hard work that y'all are putting into it. Right now we have excessive traffic, and sometimes I can't walk from my driveway across the street for several minutes, which shouldn't be the case, to even go to the park, which is across the street. I think the town did an excellent job putting the walking trail over there, and I think that was an excellent use of that property, and I'm so excited to have it there. And I commend the town for doing that. But if we get more traffic there, certainly something like the sheriff's department where people work shifts and they're coming in and out, or any other type of government entity there, then it's going to be very restrictive for the children and me and all of my neighbors as to coming in and out of our driveways and everything else we can do. First, and another point I'd like to make is I know that y'all have spoken to a developer and there are all kind of plans, and I haven't been privileged or even researched all the options for getting the money and all that for the development. But I know that Red Clay had worked with the town, and they made what I thought was considerable effort to get money, and they were not able to do so. And I would be very shocked if this developer is able to do it. I do not know anything about them. I knew a lot about Red Clay. We researched them. They had a lot of businesses and properties that they had developed. Some of them were historical, some were not. They were gorgeous facilities. I've seen some of them, and I think it's an excellent thing. Can I say one more sentence?
I'm sorry. Thank you for your comments.
Okay.
Next, Miss Dina Borda, speaking on Mount Zion.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. My name is Dina Borda, and I live directly across from the teacherage, what has been referred to as the teacherage in the current deed for the property. That is the old dilapidated white house, and it is right outside of my driveway. So I think my husband and I probably have a bigger interest in this project than just about anybody here, because it's literally out our front door. We are not opposed to the project, given certain criteria can be met. We are willing to hear what the facts are. We are in the same situation as Ms. Smith in that we don't know what is proposed. We haven't seen any drafts of documents. And I think that's really, how can any of us make decisions and vote on anything if we don't know the facts? So I'm respectfully requesting that we have an opportunity to get all the facts and then have an opportunity to ask follow-up questions so that we will be able to make a true and knowledgeable decision. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Thomas Armstrong, speaking on Mount Zion.
Good evening. Again, my name is Thomas Armstrong. Sorry it took me so long to get here. It was a long walk all the way around. But it's good to see all the people out. I came to speak up on Mount Zion several months ago, maybe close to a year if not. I spoke with my representative about the whole idea of the project, and I was against it then, and I'm still against it. I think to take as much money as it's proposing of the taxpayers' funds to put into something that's not going to benefit the whole people is ridiculous. I sat in on a meeting other week, about a few months, maybe a month or so ago, over in Jenkinsville, as I heard the people and my neighbors over in Jenkinsville spoke about industries and bringing jobs and everything to their side of town, Western Fairfield. And the response was, well, there's the sewage over here is not good, and all gave a million reasons. Good reasons, but reasons. Let's take this money and let's invest it into my neighbors' properties over there in Western Fairfield. Let's get some industry there. There are a million things that we can do with this money instead of throwing it away into a building. I am aware that there was a plans that was drawn up to put a new courthouse as well, administrative building where the current magistrate's office set up in the planning and zoning. We spent the money for those plans. Whatever happened to them? See, what I'm concerned about now is that we're always spending money, and since you all are the ones that make the decisions about how the taxpayers' monies are spent, I'm concerned about how well of a job that you all are doing. See, if you just spend $100,000 of the taxpayers' money just to get blueprints, just to put them to the side and forget about them, then we're going to look at another project, and you're not being very responsible with the taxpayers' money. So it makes you all look as if you're not very responsible at all. And we are the people that elect you all, and if you all can't do what's best for the people of Fairfield County, then why do we elect you all? Election is coming up. And if you ask yourself, if you don't get reelected, why didn't I get reelected? It's because of your bad financial spending. So I ask you to please look into this thing seriously. Stop wasting the taxpayers' money in an ideal that may or may not benefit us, which, the whole idea of reconstructing that old building is going to be extremely expensive. And I understand the current situation here, but there are other options. Why reconstruct the building when you can build a brand new building for probably close to the same amount and get exactly what you want? You can't change those four walls. All you can do is build within what's in there. So I ask you all to do due diligence and make sure that you think about the taxpayers when you making your decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Miss Yvette Howard, speaking on Mount Zion.
Good evening. Mr. Chair, members of the council. In this year of 2018, I'm aware of how difficult it is to deal with unsound decisions made in the past. Many communities in this country are dealing with issues such as the one we face in Fairfield County. We should not be trying not only to move county services to the Mount Zion site, but spending millions of dollars in the process. Over the past month, some details of the proposed project have been shared with the community. However, many questions remain. There are better alternatives to deal with the purported need for a new county complex. And we ask you to consider all of the citizens of Fairfield County when you are making the decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Miss Betty Gutschlag, speaking on Mount Zion.
Good evening, gentlemen. No man, no. Oh, there is a woman down there too. I'm here, and I have to commend all the people that have spoken already. They have all been concerned about the generalized condition of the financial situation and everything that's going on in the community. And I think this is important that everybody knows what is going on, how our money is being spent, how we don't have any money, and what we can do about it. We have to tighten our belts. We have to tighten our belts. We have to not spend when we don't have money, and maybe kind of look things over and see where we can cut some corners. That's what I have to do at home. So y'all are like us. If you don't have it, you can't spend it. I think that it would be well if we had an open forum, by what I've heard before regarding Mount Zion, in the fact that tidbits are here, tidbits are there, and really, do any of us really know the whole situation? I don't really think so. Personal opinion. But like these other ladies, I live very close to Mount Zion. I enjoy the walking trail, seeing people walk. It's a beautiful addition. And it's I hear the comment all the time, I like to use it because it's safe. That means a lot. The Mount Zion is a building for the community. I have no objection to it if it is handled properly with very strong consideration of the municipal people around the community. They have to be considered as a whole. And that means I think we're all lenient, but by the same token, we all want respect and to know what's going on and be informed. Of course, I think the whole county needs to be informed. If we don't do this as a group and work together, we're going to be sunk. Just plain sink to the bottom. And I think everybody knows by now that what money we have is negligible, but if we pull together, we've got a lot of good people in this county, and we can work together and forget about me, and I, and pull it together, and we can pull them up by our bootstraps and be successful wherever we want to go. And I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Next, Miss Jana Childers, speaking on Mount Zion.
Jana Childers, District 7. Tonight, County Council will have the second reading to renovate some of the buildings located at Mount Zion. This multi-million-dollar project is to provide the new office building for the county employees. We all know that. Many citizens of this county are obviously adamantly against this proposal. The walking trail and the whole neighborhood would be a construction zone for months or even years. The noise and destruction from the construction equipment and workers would turn this historical residential district into chaos and mayhem. It's my understanding this proposal would give the ownership of the land, to include the land that contains the walking trail, to the developer so that they, as a private owner, could remove the controversial monument. But what would happen to the walking trail that so many citizens would use daily? Would this whole area be turned into a parking lot? Keep in mind that the developer is relying on tax credits that are based on the historical value of the buildings. But as of today, the buildings are not on the National Registry. Although the developer has applied for preservation certification, the property must be listed in the National Register of Historic Places to receive the 20% investment tax credit. 20%. Where are the other tax credits coming from? The developer has also stated that as the property owner, it would charge the county over $500,000 a year to lease the buildings from them, but that the amount could be considerably higher depending on the final cost of the project. Where's the county getting over $500,000 a year for an indeterminate amount of years? Lease the building. Is it a payback for a loan, or is it leasing the building? When the county is only paying interest on the loans they currently have, how do they expect to pay for another loan? Could the developer end up leasing to someone else since the county can't afford it? What's in place to keep this from happening? And why is county trying to push this through so quickly? What's the motivation behind this urgency? I understand to repair the current building would be costly, but how much would it be? We don't need to make it prettier or renovate each room. We only need to do what's absolutely necessary, such as the roof and the AC. Wouldn't that be less than $500,000 a year? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Jeff Schaefer, speaking on the new building.
Good evening, Jeff Schaefer, District 4. I should take about a minute for everyone to listen to all these people who came up here and gave you an earful. I also want to say maybe I should be the opposing voice, but I'm not. I'm with them. I'd like to know where the money for the new offices or the Mount Zion project is really coming from. That has not been shared, I guess. And I've been absent for a couple of meetings, so maybe it was. I'd like to know who would be in the new office, who's going to take it, use it. I'd like to know why we still have separate police departments. I'll talk to the boss back there in a minute. Why aren't we this? By the way, have you looked at the Walmart? Why aren't we owning the Walmart? Why don't you take the Walmart over? It's got parking. It's a tremendous building. You could put everything in that building, and it would stop being a vacant hole in the wall. You know, when you hear everyone else talk and they're all sharing their emotions, it seems to me that people are concerned about what they're getting living in the county for their tax money and where we're getting the money and what we're doing with it. At the end of the day, it's like Congress. You're all elected. If you don't do what you said you're going to do, we should not reelect you. And all of you, I know, were the kind of people that said, I don't want that guy reelected. He's not doing it. We want something done. And you have a good idea. This building is old. Maybe it needs to be changed. I don't know what the reasons are, but we need to hear the reasons of why we're doing something, and they need to be explained in detail so that everyone's satisfied with the idea. And if not, maybe you ought to hold a public a venue and put it out for the public to make a comment or vote on it before you get your third approval and go, okay, we're going forward. That may be just something, food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, Dr. Marie Roseborough, speaking on Mount Zion.
Okay. Good evening. I want to keep this simple and clear. This issue seems to be muddled and confused every time it's brought up. The people that live in the community of Mount Zion do not want the building there. They want it torn down. Now, we heard one person earlier say that they weren't opposed to it. Well, things may have changed with that person, but I have results of written surveys. Everyone that has property at that time adjacent to the Mount Zion property, I'm not talking about across the field, said they want it torn down. We didn't ask, well, under what conditions do you want to save it? We said, do you want it torn down or do you want a program in it? We want it torn down. There's no justification for putting a sheriff's office there. If you want to provide the best sheriff's services for the people of Fairfield County, you make the program more accessible to the people. They serve the county. You don't restrict them and place them uptown in the Mount Zion building. I can go on and on, but the basic premise in which I'm saying a philosophy is the county council is responsible to all the taxpayers of Fairfield County, making decisions that greatly impact all the citizens of Fairfield County. You're not responsible for saving buildings. That's not your role. And you have a very difficult job if you think you're going to have to make decisions based on what people want. Your job is to provide the taxpayers the most for their money, and you have tough decisions. But the people will support you if you do that. Going along with Mount Zion and sliding in the sheriff's office and moving it up there with the hidden agenda to save the building, that's not acceptable, and we don't accept it. Where were you when Mount Zion was closed and all the black schools in the county were closed? Did we try to save them? Precedence has been set. County councils don't run around trying to save buildings. We need to look as a county on the money we're currently spending, as other people have said coming up here. There needs to be cost analysis of every program that you offer. You're not in the business of saving programs in this county. You have to look at these programs that we offer and see if the taxpayers are getting the most for their money. If they're too costly, if too few people are benefiting from them, close them and reallocate that money. We don't need to put ourselves in a situation where we're paying for a program that we don't want. We're making payments toward a lease or whatever. People unemployed here in this county. Why would we put in a child care facility? Why would we continue focusing on recreation? It's very questionable. An in-depth study needs to be done in this county of how we're spending our money and how we can better do a job of spending our money to meet the needs of all taxpayers in this county. Our role is not, or your role is not to save buildings. If it were, where were you when all the other buildings were torn down? Precedence has been set. Buildings are torn down because they're not safe. You're to be commended. That building's been safe, and an empty building was safe for years. It's time to remove it. It's not an historical building. People get confused. It's not an historical building. It's almost a mirror image of Monticello High School. I went to Monticello High School.
Thank you.
I taught at Mount Zion 4 years. I know what I'm talking about.
Thank you very much.
Next, Mr. Randy Bright, speaking on Ordinance 707.
Randy Bright, District 1, Ridgeway. In doing research on Mount Zion, if you had to assign a human characteristic to this site, it would be resilient. Resilient in the fact that it's like an old TV lying around your house. You plug it in to see if it works, and it doesn't. Then a few months later, you give it another check. You plug it in, it still doesn't work. We've gone through, if you go back and research, Mount Zion has been on, since 2007, on plan after plan after plan. And plan after plan after plan failed. I would think that we would learn from those lessons. In looking at the reasons why those plans failed, there are 3 universal reasons. Some have been touched upon here tonight. Number 1 is it's in a residential area that the people don't want the building to be resurrected. Number 2, the costs. The costs have always been too much. And number 3, quite frankly, now this was before your time, the reasons and details of the plan were poorly communicated. Now it looks like we still have the same reason. Number 1, the residents in the area are against it. Number 2, though, it still looks like we still don't even know the costs, the final costs of this. That was clear in last week's meeting, and in fact so clear that the numbers didn't even add up. We gave out numbers that for the loan and the construction costs and the amount of that First and Main would put in, and those numbers tallied $11 million. Yet the projected cost was $11.4 million. So we don't even have an initial plan to pay for the building. We've got to get a whole lot more details, and we've got to get a lot better communication to this plan. And in that communication should include our other alternatives. The Walmart building has been mentioned. I know there's pros and cons there. There's other buildings that have been mentioned. There are other places. Keeping it here has been mentioned. You guys need to put forth a communication. Here are the options. Here are the costs. But you can't put that forth until we know the exact costs, and that includes the interest on the loan. The reason FFC failed and created the big hole that it is, it never went to the public really, and we never got the details, and we are all screwed because of it. So don't make the same mistake twice. And remember what Einstein said about the definition of insanity. You guys are too smart to repeat these mistakes. Communication, harm to the community, and the costs. That's what we need to know. And the full bottom line costs, including interest payments, and the full quality of construction that is expected, and all the alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes segment 1.
Thank you, Mrs. Davis. We're now down to public hearings. We have an application and expenditure for the 2018 JAG funds. At this public hearing, Fairfield County will provide information concerning the proposed use of the funds in an identified program purpose area. I'll open this public hearing at 6:27 p.m. Do we have anybody signed to speak, Ms. Davis?
One speaker, Mr. Randy Bright.
Randy Bright, District 1. Well, you know that. I'd just like to put a plug in for domestic violence. Put this money towards domestic violence. I'm not saying all of it, but it's a huge problem in the state of South Carolina. The state of South Carolina and the Midlands basically leads one of the leading areas in the free world in domestic violence. And domestic violence has long-term and short-term impact on entire families and lasting impact on these entire families. We pay for, in human toll and in dollars and cents, for domestic violence for the rest of the individuals who are involved lives. It ruins lives permanently in many cases, certainly short-term in all cases, and it's a real problem in everywhere in this state. And I think that certainly this would be a good opportunity to allocate a good chunk of money for prevention and treatment and anything else that goes along with domestic violence. Thank you.
Thank you.
No one else signed to speak.
All right. This public hearing does say that the county would provide information concerning the proposed use of the funds as part of the public hearing. We generally do that not as part of a public hearing, but I don't know if that language was put there in error or if there was going to be any information on that right now. I see it later under new business. We just hold it till then. Okay. I'll take a motion at this time, 6:28 p.m. to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that council close this public hearing at this time. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Those opposed? By a vote of 6-0, that public hearing is closed. We're now down to ordinances and resolutions. Item A is an ordinance number 707 to be deferred until after executive session so we can go over terms of contract. Item B, by title only, ordinance number 709. This is an ordinance authorizing Fairfield County to accept the conveyance of 2.72 acres, more or less, situated on Old Windmill Road near Ridgeway, South Carolina, the county of Fairfield, to be used for public safety or other uses deemed fit by Fairfield County Council and other related matters. Do we have a motion?
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that council provide first reading. No discussion, as it's by title only, to ordinance number 709. Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? By a vote of 6-0, first reading is provided to ordinance number 709. Board and commission minutes, we have one for tonight. That's the Chamber of Commerce, most recent minutes they sent us. It was in your packet. Do we have a motion to approve those?
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that council now approve the most recent minutes sent by the Chamber of Commerce. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? By a vote of 6-0, those minutes are approved. We're now down to new business. This is consideration of approval of application for 2018 JAG grant funds. I don't know if this is something we need a motion for tonight. It is? Okay. It's been moved and properly seconded that council approve the application for 2018 JAG grant funds. We have any discussion? If we could, please get a little bit of information on this, Mr. Taylor.
This is to apply for $11,251 in grant money, and the money would be used to purchase a utility side-by-side task vehicle. And Sheriff, if you would like to describe more as far as what this utility side-by-side task vehicle is and what it would be used for, I'd appreciate it.
Council, this is a four-wheel drive ATV. It'll hold up to 6 people, and we'll be able to use it for special events. Say Rock Around the Clock, Pig on the Ridge, and also for missing persons, we'll also be able to use it for law enforcement purposes also. So I think it'll be a great add to our department, a good tool for our department.
Any council members have any questions or anything on this? I'd just like to say thank you for bringing it forward to us so we can get approval of it. It sure would have been a good tool to have for the fires that happened out on the western side this year. Help out with some stuff like that as well, so I appreciate that. Anyone else? All right, at this time we'll take a vote on that motion. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion is approved. County Administrator's report, Mr. Taylor.
Yes, the first item, Sheriff. Sheriff. I got you
right back up.
I hate for you to get too far away from the microphone. I have asked the Sheriff, Will Montgomery, to give us an update on our new relationship with Ridgeway and what we're doing there in providing services, policing services to the town of Ridgeway.
What we're doing in Ridgeway, I'm sure all of y'all know that they did away with their police department. So now the sheriff's office is taken over by taking off-duty deputies, and they're getting paid extra duty by the town of Ridgeway to provide law enforcement services for Ridgeway. And I just want to pass it on to council so council will have a heads up on what we're doing.
Thank you. Any questions?
Sorry?
What would be the hours?
The hours, depending on what they want. They're giving us a schedule week by week, and it's normally 6 hours a day, and then we're working that out for them, whatever they want.
Thank you.
We can't. If the mayor would like to comment on it, we can allow that.
I didn't know I was going to be speaking tonight. So with the partnership that we have, right now we've had some citizens and some store owners speak up, and they are extremely happy. We had one incident that happened out in front of a store. Actually, one of the officers was right there. We were able to go ahead and get the officer to take a report and move forward. In the past, we've had to call and set up some dispatch to contact us. And right now, we're just getting some great feedback from the citizens. Again, this is something that right now we're just using for 6 hours. It's the option to increase hours as we need or see the need for, as well as days. And again, we appreciate the county allowing us to enter into an agreement, and we thank Sheriff Montgomery and his team for doing a great job for us.
I'd like to add something there. It gives the deputies the opportunity to make a little extra money, so that's another good thing. Even though they're off duty and off work, they're able to go in and make a couple extra dollars when needed.
All right, any questions? Yes, Mr. Pauly.
Who pays for the use of the vehicle and the gas?
Ridgeway's paying for the gas. We're still doing the maintenance on the vehicle, but we're in the town of Ridgeway. I don't think that's a big deal. Most of the time they're on foot in the town limits.
All right, any other questions or comments? Mrs.
Just
Gold.
a comment. And as you're doing that, I see we are forming a relationship, and they are part of the county, a part of our citizenship. So we have to share responsibilities when we're making changes and helping our citizens. So thank you both so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for providing that information.
Yes, I'll just add that this is, I think, a good relationship that benefits both of us. It saves the town of Ridgeway a considerable amount of money, and again, benefits our sheriff's department also. So I'm glad we were able to work that relationship out. Next, we have Palmetto Pride, a presentation by Miss Mallory Baring. Baring, okay. Thank you.
Well, it is the full house. I'm glad that y'all are here, so that means a lot to me. Mr. Anderson, is that right? All right, there we go. So my name's Mallory Baring. I'm the Keep South Carolina Beautiful Director and the Community Outreach Program Manager for Palmetto Pride. I've been there a little more than a year. Before that, I was in Bamberg County. Have any of y'all ever heard of that? Oh, yeah. So it is just a little bit smaller than Fairfield County. I was born there, kind of grew up there. A lot of some of the similar situations and conversations that are having tonight, I've been on the other end of. So kudos to everyone in the room for having that conversation. So I'm here tonight to go ahead and talk about Palmetto Pride and our mission. Councilman Robinson, I had the luxury of meeting you at the most recent conference, and we talked a little bit about what Palmetto Pride does. We're the state's anti-litter campaign, and from what I understand, your sheriff's department here, they do an outstanding job with litter pickup throughout the community, but we help with so much more than that. Not only do we help local governments, we go into schools, we work with other nonprofits and Keep America Beautiful affiliates, and we are a true nonprofit, 501c3. We work with the public and private sector. So why am I here today? What's the issue in Fairfield County? Where do you see the most issues? Do you have groups working together besides just this one? What do you hope to get out of these groups? What are your goals, and are they realistic? But most importantly, what is your why? Why are you all doing this, and why are you here today? So take a look at this photo. Would you say that you have any type of issue like this somewhere in Fairfield County? Okay, so I'm getting some yeses. Why do you have those issues? Think about that. And what does it cost if it's left there, not cleaned up? What does it cost you as a taxpayer? What does it cost you as a county council man or woman? You have to think about those things. So just an idea, cities pay for the bulk of issues like that. And from a study done in 2009 by Keep America Beautiful and Litter in America, that cost $797 million across the United States. So from the conversation I've heard tonight, whether you're here, whether you're in Lexington, whether you're in York, no matter what county you're in, no one can afford to leave that there. Am I right? Okay. So not only is it going to cost that much money, but what else could it cost? It's going to decrease your property values. Someone's going to come in and say, hey, I don't really want to do business here because it looks like that. Or I don't want my kids to go to that park because it looks like that. We can go to the next slide, please. So again, why am I here? So littering, in our opinion, it's a behavior thing. Why do people litter? My personal favorite is because you're a lazy person, but there are other things we could say. But we just want to change people's behavior. When we can do that, we have a better community. We have people who want to come and work together. We have people who want to go out and make a difference. But it's not going to happen overnight. So like when you go to college and you put on that 15 pounds, or you put on that 20 pounds, or you get married and your wife can cook so good, and you just gain all that weight, how long does it take you to get it off? It doesn't come off, right? Isn't that what you just said? So the same thing with changing behavior. So the issue here is that it's not going to happen in minutes. It's not going to happen in hours, days, weeks. And y'all, to be honest, it could take years, more than 1 year. But the good thing about it is we're here to teach you how to take issues like this. We're going to teach you how to use enforcement, pickup, awareness, and education to make sure that things like this don't happen. We're going to go to the next slide, and when you see huge sites of tires dumped like this, I think that you guys might have read something about this 880,000 tires in another county that were just dumped like this. That's a health issue. We're going to teach you how to fix those issues. We're going to teach your community members that dumping your household trash on the side of a dirt road or any road is not okay. So we're going to take pictures like this and that, things that happen every day. Whenever you see things like this happening, which actually, how many of you, by a show of hands, have seen someone litter from their car? Raise your hand. Do you know how many police officers have worked for 10 years or more and have never seen it happen? Yeah, it's really sad because who's going to litter in front of a cop? So we're going to go to the next one. We're going to show you how to take uncovered loads to prevent litter. We're going to go to the next slide. Whenever you're at those parks, or you're in the Walmart parking lot, or you're in any parking lot, and to be honest, when I was walking in here, I'm seeing cigarette butts, which are the #1 littered item across America that can be recycled. So think about that. We're going to help you eliminate this issue. We're going to go to parks, sides of the streets, sides of the road, and when you see pieces of paper and plastic bottles, things like that are going to be there for 450 years if no one goes and picks it up. We're not going to be here, but if we don't take care of it, how are we going to make it better? How are we going to make it right? So can you go 2 slides? One more. Thank you. So, again, how do we do that? How do we change people's behavior and make them do something that they're not used to doing, whether they know it's okay? Because back in the day, people used to have their little dump sites on their property, right? They would just go out. This is the norm. This is the side of my property where we put all of our trash. That's not okay anymore. So we have to change what everyone is doing so we can protect our environment. And we want to make sure that it's a safer community. We want to make sure that the community is stronger because of it. And we want to improve real estate values. We want to improve just the relationships that we have with our community members. So your goal, from what I've understood about talking to some people in Fairfield County, and even your councilman, Richard Robinson, that you want a litter-free South Carolina and a litter-free Fairfield County. And when we say that to some people, they're like, well, that's never going to happen. But it's my job to put myself out of a job, and I fully believe that it can happen. So, again, we're going to do that through education with our different programs. We're going to do it through enforcement with the many grants and opportunities that we have available for your law enforcement agencies here. We're going to do it with awareness and programs that you can do yourselves. Like those of you who said that you notice people litter, download our app. Call our Litter Busters hotline. You can join in on projects like the Francis Marion National Forest Cleanup, where we can come in and do things. But the biggest thing, in my personal opinion, that you can do, and I'm saying this coming from Bamberg, South Carolina, where there wasn't any money to do anything. I think that there was a joke sometimes going around, they didn't have money to buy toilet paper. You know, we heard citizens say things like that. But they started an affiliate, something called Keep America Beautiful. And again, I'm with Keep South Carolina Beautiful. You can't afford not to have one of these. And just an example, in less than 3 years in Bamberg, I was able to help raise grant funds alone, which means you don't have to pay that back. Okay, this money is set aside through different private funders, donors. Other money is just set aside to do just these particular things. Again, you do not have to give it back. Over $500,000 just to do things like buy trash cans, help with recycling programs, go to your drop-off centers to help with education in schools about litter recycling and beautification, to install parks, to help fund my position. There are all different ways to kind of do it. So what I say to you all and to council, you can't afford not to do it, but we want to help you do it. We have grants that, I'm sorry, you can go to the next. We have grants that are going to help you not only clean up, we're going to teach you how you can fund this position, whether it's through a new person, whether it's a volunteer in the community, like maybe someone in this room wants to step up and do this job. That's possible. But we also want to just make sure that you understand that whatever you have to do in this program, there is a grant through us that you can apply for. As a Keep South Carolina Beautiful affiliate, you can apply for a $15,000 grant that will help you do any program that you need to do. So that's not a program that you get rid of. That's a program that you're going to ask community members to come out and, hey, you want to help us pick up trash? Or we're going to go to this park and we're going to plant these trees. Or we're going to put in another nature trail somewhere. Or we're going to enhance the nature trails that we have now. Okay? If your law enforcement agency has an illegal dump site somewhere and they need to catch some folks doing that, we've got cameras that they can apply for. You don't want to buy those cameras outright? Okay? Well, we've got cameras that you can try out beforehand. Is this going to work for us before you go and make that purchase? Any idea that you have, it's not too crazy for us because we're those people who want those crazy ideas. We will take it and we will make it work. So you're here today, and so you know that we all have tough roads that we have to walk down. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It's going to take time, and it's hard work, effort, and it is community building. People you've never spoken to before, people you don't agree with. It is this affiliate and this opportunity, it makes you come together. It makes citizens and county council members, white, black, Hispanic, unemployed, employed, female, male, young, old. You come together and you meet people and do things that you never thought that you would have done before. It is literally making the impossible possible. It is creating a chain that is so strong that you're not going to break it. And we're going to teach you how to go in and do those things so that if your enforcement is weak, we're going to teach you how to be strong. If your education, your awareness, we're going to teach you what those strengths and weaknesses are and how you can build off of them. So passion obviously led me to this job today. It is the best job in the world, and I have fun every day doing this. But the best part is coming out and talking to citizens and community members and county councilmen and women and saying, hey, if this community did it, you can do it. Because you can make any type of map to get there. We want to help you take this, and we want to turn it into this. And the last slide before I leave today, I love this. People think success is, just straight up. That is not what it looks like at all. And I'm sure many of you can attest to this, even county councilmen and women. It is all over the place. It is up and down and sideways, but you'll get there. And when you get there, it is worth every twist, every turn, every drop of sweat, anything and everything that you had to do to get there. So, with that, we would just like to say that we are here and we are ready to come to you all to teach you how to do these things, to help you get the funding to do these things, and to work with your community to make it happen. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Ms. Goins?
When do we get started?
We can start tomorrow. All right. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming and speaking with us.
Mr. Chairman, Council, that's all I had.
All right. We have no clerk to council's report tonight. We're down to second public comment session. Mrs. Davis.
We have 10 speakers for this section also. First, Ms. Yvette Howard speaking on community relations.
Again, I'm Yvette Howard, a resident of District 7 and Secretary of the Fairfield County Branch NEACP. A Christian gentleman, modest, unassuming, honest, skillful, loyal, patient, kind, sympathetic, and courageous. A constant source of strength in the community. His humor always pleasing and his judgment always sound. His influence increased with the years, earning him the respect and confidence of all his fellow men. These are the words on a memorial stone honoring the superintendent of public schools in the section of Fairfield County for 24 years from 1929 until 1953. During that time, the person being honored here was very skillful and loyal in his task of keeping the schools separated by race and unequal. For the black population of the community, he was not modest, unassuming, honest, patient, kind, sympathetic, courageous, always pleasant in his humor, or sound in his judgment. Has his influence increased with the years? Not in the black community. In which community has his influence increased? His actions and the actions of others like him had a detrimental effect on the black students, their families, and communities. Communities, families, and students are still living with the effects of his actions. The county should be trying to bring communities together, not providing a more prominent location for the memorial. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Miss Irene Maddox speaking on the Recycling Center.
Okay, this is going to be a little different. And I hate to say, oh, wait a minute, let me get my thing out. You can see I'm not too good at this. I'm going to talk about the recycling bin. One cold, rainy day in January of 2017, I went to take my trash off. One little black lady was in charge to see if everything went to the right bin. Because people can't read the sign, it seems, all she had on that day was a little jacket. So I thought that it would be nice if the county could buy some raincoats for these people who work for the county. The coats would stay at the building, then they would have something when they needed it. Most of the people who work there are older, and I am sure they don't get much money. They have the worst, stinkingest job you ever known. They have to stand outside at any kind of weather. One day I was there, and a little lady was trying to pull something out of a big item because it was in the wrong bin. I stopped and went to see if I could help her, but she said no. I guess she must have thought I would fall in and sue. Please help these people. And another thing is, these people who work there mean more to me than the stupid sidewalks that no one uses. I mean, y'all need to do something for these people, and all of them. I mean, it breaks my heart. I can't take it. I mean, y'all don't go to the center like I do to see these people, what they go through. And I think they need something. You need one of these big things in the wintertime that Johnny Porter sells to put out there for their heat. I mean, they're pitiful. And I don't care whether you black people like me or not, because I got plenty of good black friends, and the ones I love, because I was brought up to love, and God's making me do this now.
Thank you.
Next, Miss Jackie Workman, speaking on monument.
Good evening. My name is Jackie Workman, and I'm from District 4. I understand. I forgot. Good evening, Chairman Smith. I understand that the county purchased a piece of land formerly known as Martin Blue Moon. It was a club. Paying $2,000, if not mistaken, located in Jenkinsville, South Carolina, on 215, to develop a memorial park. The plan is to relocate the monument, I gotta watch my time, of the former superintendent who was in charge of the white public Jenkinsville School to the purchased property. That school closed its doors in the 1960s during segregation. Blacks was not allowed to attend nor be employed. I am opposed, as to many in the community, to relocate a statue to the proposed memorial park formerly known as the Martin Blue Moon property, as proposed by Councilwoman Goins. We view the person on the statue as a segregationist and a white supremacist. To move it there would be a blatant disrespect to our community and our humanity. And I would like to forward this on to the clerk to give to Mr. Taylor. Freedom of Information Act request. Dear Mr. Taylor, under the Freedom of Information Act, 5 U.S.C. Section 552, I am respecting the following documents: the names, titles, and salaries of each Fairfield County employees. Secondly, a list of all family members employed by Fairfield County since 2010 and their relationship to the present time. Please note that 5 U.S.C. Section 552 A4A 52 require that you provide the first 100 copies, if it's that many, to me at no charge. Thanking you in advance, and this, I would like for you to make a copy, whomever, and give to the rest of the council members. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. Keith Martin, speaking on the monument.
Good evening, everyone. This is the first time I've spoken in public in the last 12 years. I'm a former city council member, teacher, and minister. My aunt, Miss Bessie Gregg, who we celebrated her 90th birthday, is with us tonight. And she talked to me about the monument that they want to place at the old Martin's Blue Moon site. I'd like to say that Mr. Booker T. Martin and Miss Sarah Martin were very upstanding citizens of Jenkinsville and touched many lives, and asked that the council get input from all of those involved before they make a decision. Being a council member, I would like to say that in order to be a good council member, it's important that you always have the input of everyone involved. And I think if you're going to do a monument, it needs to be to Mr. Booker T. Martin and Miss Sarah Martin, who were such beautiful people and helped everyone in the community, in all as well as the state. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Miss Roberta Martin Gay, speaking on the monument.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Roberta Gay, District 4, one of the representatives of the concerned matter of the monument that will be placed on the Booker T. Martin property on 215 in Jenkinsville community. This property was owned by Booker T. Martin, who was born in Jenkinsville, where he lived his entire life. From June 1906 until he departed his life in January 30, 1982. He attended school in Jenkinsville, South Carolina, as well as college in Columbia. After finishing college, his desire was to give back to his hometown, where he built a store and named it the Martin's Blue Moon. He had a baseball field where teams came from all over to compete. He had a gas station, a grocery store, where you could purchase supplies, or he would even give you credit. He had an entertainment place where James Brown, Wilson Pickett, Sam Cooke, just to name a few. A place where you could change your oil, and a small repair on your vehicles. So that's why the Jenkinsville community has signed petitions, over 250 petitions we have, that the monument be placed in honor of the Booker T. Martin, better known as Martin Blue Moon. This community has been informed that the monument of Mr. M.F. Drummond would be placed there, and we are very displeased about the decisions that has been made. Thank you very much. These are the petitions.
Thank you. Ma'am, I'm sorry. We can't. We have to go through the process for public comment. Thank you. I appreciate your passion, ma'am. We can't allow it. Thank you very much.
Next, Mr. Greg Ginyard, speaking on the monument.
Good evening. Here's a story about a group of people who want to put a monument of a white school superintendent from 1932 to 1954, which we all know was during segregation. Now, a group of white people, along with the black woman, wants to move this thing from the original site of the middle of a black into the middle of a black neighborhood. Now, I say, if this is a site monument, then let it stay on the site where all the good things were supposed to have happened, not in our neighborhood where we were constantly reminded of the unjust that our people had and endured. So I say to council, let's not do this. Let's keep the peace. Let's not create something that's going to disturb the community. If you gotta have it in a certain place, then, it's a site monument, use it on that site. Don't take it and put it in a neighborhood where nobody white lives, where it's all black people, and tell us about you honoring somebody that did segregation. That's just totally wrong. And then when we had a meeting and we asked about it, it was said that there was a community meeting that was held to ask about this. Well, if you look around in here now, there's quite a few people from Jenkinsville sitting here. Not a one of us was invited to that meeting. Not a single one of us. There's Miss Gregg knows here that tell about walking to school, bottles and cans and paper and people spitting at them off of the school buses. It's something that we don't need to remember. Something that we don't need to remember. So I say to council, give it some serious thought what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. Virgil Porter speaking on economic development and finance.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Clerk, and the rest of you County Council members, I'm Virgil Porter from District 6, and I've heard many comments about people that I'm surely think that is very important to them, but I've heard very few comments about what I, along with many other people in this county, consider the most important thing that Fairfield County needs, and that is jobs, 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 jobs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Ms. Peggy Swearingen speaking on questions.
Council, I have some questions. Voters, did you know that your current District 3 representative and previous council voted on March the 25th of 2013 to create a nonprofit shell corporation for the purpose of using $24 million in bonds, which this Fairfield Facilities Corporation then was to use these monies to make certain named county renovations? Did you know this bond will not be paid off till 2042? Did you know it cannot be paid off to 2042? According to digital records of the 3 meetings in which the ordinance was voted on, Council only read the title of the ordinance but did not discuss or go into explanation that the GO bonds issued provided for the ordinance were planned to pay for the $24 million bond or the millage consequences for taxpayers. In other words, we borrow money to pay on the interest and payments that we borrowed. So, a chart was provided by County Administrator Milton Pope in September and published in The Voice on September the 19th, 2015, showing that even though the county's 2009 bond would be paid off in 2019, which would have decreased our millage by 10 points, our millage will continue at 10.4 mils of debt service until the year 2040. And to a lesser degree until 2047. So, because of the bond that did not couldn't roll off because of the $24 million, that means that our taxes aren't going down. Bad news, 2042, they might go down. So as I mentioned, there were projects that were funded from this $24 million bond, which was to include but not limited to the renovation of the courthouse and the administration building. I think we need an accountability of this $24 million and where it was spent. What does all this mean for you as taxpayers? Well, I'm going to say this real loud and real clear. Your children, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren are going to be paying back $43 million until the year 2042, and your taxes are not going down. You can thank the members of the previous county council that was seated on March the 25th, 2013 for this. And y'all think about this when you lay down to go to bed tonight.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Jeff Schaefer speaking on overstepping authority.
Dang. Is that the word for that? You know, we're all human beings. And what happens is we look at each other with different colors, different religions, different ages, different places. You all hate each other? I doubt that. I doubt there's anybody in this room who really hates anybody else for their age, their color, their race, their religion. And if you do, stand up. Let me see who you are. Oh, I see. Okay, so the haters, you want to stand up? The haters who tell other people that everybody hates everybody, we understand that. There was a time when it wasn't good here. No doubt about that. No one's denying that. I was alive then. I recall that in the 60s. It was not a good time for most people. Yankees coming down south was a terrible time. I got arrested with my New York plates. Look, that's the way the world was. It's not the way the world is now. And the reality is, apparently, this man, who the monument was given for, was a spectacular human being and deserves to be recognized for his character. I don't think his character was he hated other people. But more importantly, let's put it this way. When you have a meeting in Jenkinsville and you only invite black folks and you talk about Jeff Schaefer, be nice to invite me and let me speak about myself. Because I have nothing to lose or gain for this. I just thought it was something that should be recognized because this man is somebody special. And I think that when Mr. J.R. Green is finished with his time, and I think he's something special, maybe the community will come out and put a monument for him. And no one's going to say, don't do that. Because when you're given something in a positive nature, it should be given in a positive nature. And not thrown out and say, well, this is a hatred thing. I'm going to knock down mine. This has nothing to do with that. And it's just history. And if we don't know what history is, we're bound to repeat it, maybe the wrong way. And Jenkinsville, for those of you who don't know, is a big old town until Mr. Gignard had his fiefdom, which made it a little town of 48 people. That's his Jenkinsville. Jenkinsville's a big place. There are lots of white folks and black folks that live there. This is something that I think goes beyond what we're all suffering with Mr. Trump and Mr. whoever else. And this is ridiculous. We're human beings. Let's start acting like human beings. Treat each other with respect. Be nice to each other and try to accomplish good things. And when there's something we disagree with, okay, we can disagree. We can agree to disagree. We don't have to get angry and nasty about it and turn people on and say that, I hate that guy. I don't hate anybody. That includes you, Mr. Gignard. I do not hate you. I don't love you, but I don't hate you.
Let's stay away from names if we can.
Yeah, okay. So I only got 10 seconds. Consider what was said tonight. We're trying to do good things, and I hope that you will. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Randy Bright, speaking on challenge.
Randy Bright, District 1, Ridgeway. Well, you guys have got a full plate ahead of you, and I thank you for listening, and I hope indeed that you do listen. Because so far this year, you guys as a group, as federal government, as a government, have done a lot of good things. Keeping medical care here in the county and saving money in doing it and making it even better in the long run in doing it. Remodeling or upgrading not the mega site, but the Brown industrial site. That remodel there is going to help us. And what a deal, ROI return, that you guys made with the airport, which is so vital for our continued growth. And I know that the economic development team has reached out and made a lot of contacts, and hopefully they'll become fruitful. And this is, and I would also add the initial foray into improving our infrastructure to the mega site. That is very, very significant. This Mount Zion deal could be your crowning achievement or crowning downfall, however. It's up to you guys. Remember, with all projects, you've got to communicate to us, you've got to be transparent, and you've got to listen. Remember, communication is a two-way street. And a lot of past things have been brought up where we've learned from our mistakes. FFC was brought up a couple of times. Seems like it is every meeting. I try to do it every meeting myself. So we remember the mistakes we made there. A lot of mistakes made in the past that has been brought up in other areas. We learn from them. So let's learn from these mistakes, and let's ensure that the Mount Zion project gives the due diligence that it deserves, that it's not a rush decision, and that you're exceedingly transparent on this, and you're exceedingly open to options, and that you listen to us. You've done good so far this year in many areas. Let's put the crowning achievement in a positive manner, whether you go with Mount Zion or a better alternative, but be sure it's done right. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes segment 2.
Thank you. We're now down to county council time. Do any council members have anything to share? Mr. Roof.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, the reason I abstained on the first reading of the Mount Zion project was I need more feedback, and I think all the citizens need more feedback. Need more understanding, and I think we need to have some open forums before we have third reading so that everybody will be fully aware of everything that's going on, the visual floor plans, everything about it, and I know there's a lot of, until everybody knows that, all of that, I think, before we have third reading. And also, I'd like to know if we can get some written estimates on repairs needed for this building and other options also. But this is a big deal, and we need to take our time and be sure what we do is right. And there are other obstacles there at the old Mount Zion building as well. So, there's a lot of obstacles here, and I think we need to take our time and make sure we do this thing right. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Roof. Anyone else? Mrs. Goins.
Yes. Mr. Chair, thank you, and good evening. On the new projected administrative building, I understand the concerns of everybody, and this is the process that we're going through. The first part was the by title only. It's just a beginning. It's going to be a long-term thing. It will be public information as we go through this. I want to say first and foremost, nothing in this world is a guarantee, but birth and death. Everything else we move by faith. Nothing is a guarantee, but we do our due diligence to the best of our ability. We have a company that is already invested in us first, and they're doing all the legwork. But I do agree with you that we do need to do a public forum. Some information has been given out, but I know everybody doesn't have a chance to attend council meeting. So we'd like to have if possible, we set up a place and invite the public, a large number of the community or those that are willing to come, and we go through it. And as we go through the process, we do these in segments, that as we go through the process, we keep everybody informed as to what's going on, money's being spent, other options, all of that. I agree with that, because one of my main things for coming on council was communication. And I understand your concern, but I also understand the need. And maybe as we go through that, you can find out, it may be some mind changes as we go through the details. The second thing, the monument in Western Fairfield and Jenkinsville. It started out as just an idea of moving a monument, and I had no idea the monument was on the property. Didn't know anything. I know the school was there. I know there's a factory was there because I was raised in that area. Had no idea about the monument. It has no significance to me, but it did have some to other people. So they said, we'd like to move it out where we can see it. And there was no harm in that. And as I thought about it and talked with them, I said, well, if we're going to move it out where maybe they can enjoy something that they are familiar with. And it came to me, I said that maybe we can do a community memorial where people in the community, and it wasn't just for this one particular monument. The county is not doing a monument for anybody. It's already there back in the woods. But my idea was, I said, let's do a community monument when the property became available on 215, which is now county property. I said, where we can maybe do it, and I spoke with someone, and I said, we build our community brick by brick. So we do a memorial, something nice that can be seen on the side of the road, where a family member can put a brick for their family member, can put a brick for a church, can put a brick for a business. and saying to those now and those later that this is how we brought our community together. This is how we surpassed all of the negativeness. This is how we surpassed all of those things, by sharing just by bricks. And that's how we build communities, piece by piece, one person mind changing to help another. And this was the only thought that I had for the memorial. It doesn't matter to me the color part, because none of us chose our color. We didn't have that option. But here we are, and we are all in and under one hand. We can either live together good and prosper under that hand, or we can stay divisive only by mind. But when we are one spirit and one thought, we accomplish more. Someone said that tonight. So as far as the monument, I'm not going to move any more on it. I'll try to find other options to work with those persons who I started out with, because my thought is to always do what I can, while I can, when I can, for whomever I can. And if there's another way to do this, that they can put the monument out and they enjoy it, fine. If we can do a memorial for the community and have it that all who pass up 215 can see it, fine. If it cannot come to that agreement, it's okay. Because either way you go, I'm going to still love you, I'm going to keep praying for you, and I'm going to keep doing what I can, when I can, for whomever I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Goins. Anyone else? Mr. Pauley.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. There was a lot of questions and concerns brought up about Mountain Zion. And I'm asking the chairman to set up a forum so citizens can come and give their input on what they think about the Mountain Zion issue.
Thank you, Mr. Pauley. Since that request was more direct, I will say that I'm in no way opposed to having a forum on the matter. I think that we would need to put guidelines in place to make sure that we can communicate in a way that is beneficial for all. So we can do that, but I'm certainly glad to call a meeting. I don't have within the bylaws the authority to make anybody come to a meeting such as that. It wouldn't be a regular meeting. We wouldn't be able to vote, but I certainly would be glad to look with the administration team and speak with some citizens, see what the best option would be in terms of when to do that, and call that meeting absolutely. Anyone else? Mr. Robinson?
I'd like to thank each and everyone for coming tonight. It was definitely a spirited conversation between council and citizens. When I first got elected, I just didn't get elected for this seat. We got elected with a lot of problems this county has. And so it's unable to focus on one thing at one time, so we try to spread the love, as so to put. As far as the administration building project, I think we owe it to ourselves to think about it, because one of those inherited problems I inherited was this building. Whether people think it or not, it is very expensive to replace it. Mr. Chair, Mr. Administrator, I am in favor of possibly having an open forum. With that being said, I think September the 4th, which is next Tuesday, I'm having a community, I guess we can call it a forum if possible, if we can get the guidelines and stipulations in set. At 6 o'clock at the Women's Club, I would be in favor of the first one if we can meet guidelines.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Councilmember Robinson. If no one else has anything, I've got just a little bit to share. First of all, I want to say thanks for everybody for coming out. There are things that I hear as I sit here, and when I was in the other position on the other side that I agreed with and stuff I disagreed with. But the good thing about it is we live in a society where we can have diversity of opinion and have folks come to these meetings and voice their opinions. And so I appreciate that. And whether I agree with you or disagree with you, I respect every one of you and what you're saying, and very much respect the passion that I see in a lot of the comments that are made. So I want to thank you for that. First of all, I do have, because there have been some questions, and I want to make sure that we're being as transparent as we possibly can on the new administration building project. But first of all, I want to speak in regards to the monument issue in Jenkinsville. And I don't know if I may disagree with other council members on this. Really not something I've discussed with anybody, not something that I knew much about. I was aware that we had one or two citizens who had asked to possibly move it and put it in a different location. At the time, I had no, inclination one way or the other on whether to oppose that or be in favor of it because I didn't know anything about it. So that's another reason that it's good that folks come to meetings like this, is to educate us and let us know about things. I didn't know until someone said it, the person's name that's on the monument, so I appreciate that because I was trying to figure out who this person was. But I will say that I understand the concerns around something like that. And I know there may be some people who are in favor or opposed to things like that, but I think when you have that situation and it's something that is of the nature that it is, that maybe you just leave it alone and you don't touch it and you don't bring it out into a place that might be more prominently displayed. So I thank those who came in and spoke on that. You educated me. I didn't know anything about it. I will say that I don't think that was any thought-out plan that this council was planning on moving forward and doing, because again, I hadn't heard much about it other than just one or two comments. But I will say that I would be opposed to moving that monument and putting it on the Blue Moon property, because I certainly understand that, and I want to thank those of you who came in and educated on that. Thank you very much. That's the way we get things done, is to talk to each other and do it in a respectable manner, and I appreciate you for doing that. I'm going to just finish the comments real quick on this one. On the administration building project, I wanted to respond to some of the questions that had been asked at the last meeting, and I documented all this because I wanted to, as somebody else, one of my friends in the audience would say, not get off track, because when I do that I can be misunderstood sometimes when I get too passionate. But I printed a lot of this out and I left a couple sheets at the office, so I apologize if I get off track. But just wanted to respond to some of the questions and concerns that I had heard. First of all, the goal is not to save the building. The goal is to save money and address a problem that we have in the most economical manner that we can. The last council, the previous council that was here, neglected all of their capital projects or all of their facilities with the idea that they could, I'm just going to put it straight to you, with the idea that they could hire friends and family members and keep getting reelected. They thought they were going to have a windfall when VC Summer came through, so they neglected those properties, figuring they could write a blank check. When that came through, it didn't happen. Now that's the scenario we're in, is trying to dig out of that hole. We can't address this problem, at least as of right now, in any way that is less financially troublesome for this county. If anybody can bring me a plan that looks better, I promise you I'll support it. But that's not the case right now. But I will say the goal is not to save the building. That's been discussed. That's not the goal. I said when we first started looking at it that if the county was going to get it, because if you remember the way this plan works, what we did with the town of Winsboro and the developer is that if the town got it, if the town transferred it to the developer had a certain period of time, and we had a certain period of time to be able to vote to move the plan forward. And I said at the time, my goal is to solve the issue one way or another, because it's in my district. I understand it's been kind of a fever pitch type thing for a long period of time. And so I can tell you, if this plan doesn't go forward, then my next push is going to be to demolish it, because I want that problem solved. But this is not about saving the building. I just want to make that clear. There was a suggestion tonight that we wouldn't own the building. That is not true. We wouldn't own the building for a certain period of time, but we would own it in the end. That's part of the plan. One of the questions that was asked is, what would happen to police response time when the train is blocking the tracks near the new administration building? Well, first of all, deputies don't sit in the office. Deputies are on the road, patrolling and in a position so that they can respond to calls when they come in. They don't sit in the office. You may see them when you come to the council meeting here, out there milling around. It's kind of a shift change type thing. They're not there all the time. They stay on the road. We've got a 700-plus square foot county. They couldn't do anything if they sat in the office. We don't have the resources to have enough of them to put one in every little pocket. They have to be mobile. So they're not going to be sitting in the office, just hoping a train's not going to come across. And I would suggest to you that if that were the case, it'd already be a problem when they have to go the other side of the tracks. Another question that was asked is, where will people park? This was at the last meeting. It was suggested that maybe folks would park, visitors and employees would park on surrounding properties and neighbors' lawns. Employees and visitors will park in designed parking areas, and there will be much more parking capacity if this project is to move forward at that location than we have now. People will not be parking on private property or on people's lawns in the neighborhood. There was a suggestion that the property would attract loiterers to the neighborhood. I just want to let you know that the property in its current form does that. There was a couple who was living on the property just last week that I discovered. There are children who walk around that track every night after dark. And I would think that it would give me a comfort level and more security if I knew that there was a building there and a business that was in that building, the building we're occupied, to go out there and walk, so that folks couldn't go live there, because that's the situation we have now. And I've got photos of that. And I called and had deputies come out and see that. So that's kind of the situation we're in now. Where's the money coming from? The money to pay for the project will come from existing revenues that the county already has, no tax increases, and the sale of tax credits awarded in association with the project. These tax credits won't be available for any alternative proposed solution to the county's administration building problems. So we would have to front load and pay all that cost, where we can get half of it covered under this scenario. For those opposed to this plan, my question is, and that's as of today, I will also say, if third reading were tonight, I would vote no. And that's because we still have some things in the contract to button up. We have some terms that we need to sort out. And again, if it were tonight, I'd vote no. But third reading is not tonight. This is second reading. It's part of a process. If by third reading we don't have those buttoned up to my satisfaction, I'll vote no. But I would ask for anybody opposed to this plan on today's date where the money will come from for any alternative, and are you in favor of raising property taxes to pay for an alternative? Because within the next 2 to 4 years, that's what you would have to do. And if that's what you're in favor of, say it. If you're running for council, whether you're in the seat now or you're running from it and you're not in the seat, say it. Make it a campaign point. Tell people you want to raise their taxes, and we'll see how it goes. But that's the reality of the situation we're in, not by our doing, by former councils. So that's where we are, and we've got to try to dig out of that hole. Now, so you see I'm getting off track here. But is there asbestos in the building? There was a study that was done on asbestos in the building. There is asbestos in the building. However, there's not nearly as much, really, as I would have expected. And the asbestos in the building is primarily confined to the roofing, which would be replaced, the insulation, which would be replaced, chalkboards, which of course would be replaced, and the floor tile, which would be replaced. So there is asbestos in the building, but it would all be addressed as part of this plan. We're not going to keep asbestos in the building and have employees working there and council meetings there and citizens coming in and being an asbestos type situation. Alternative sites are the old Walmart building and the hospital. First, if we want the option in the future of including any court functions within this property, which is another issue we have to address, we've discussed that, it has to be within the county seat. It has to be within Winsboro according to state statute. So those options wouldn't work. Second of all, neither of these alternatives would be any less expensive. At the very least, they would cost the same, if not more, I think more. And we wouldn't be able to get tax credits to help us pay for that. That's something we would have to pay for, either out of pocket, which we don't have. If you don't have money in your pocket, you generally have to finance something. Well, guess what? Because of that $24 million bond, we can't finance a thing. So we can let the building fall in, or we can put a referendum on the ballot to increase taxes. I wouldn't be in favor of either of those situations. The other thing is, with the Walmart property in particular, we had an economic development prospect in there the day after Element let everybody know that they had to do those layoffs with the potential of 250 jobs. And that building has gotten looks on a biweekly probably basis. So if we want to take that asset off the market when we don't have many assets, we can do that. I don't think it would be the right thing to do. That also is an income-producing property for the county. They pay property taxes. It doesn't matter whether a building is occupied or anybody's in it. Property taxes are paid on it. Just like if you didn't live in your home or you have a second home, property taxes are still paid on it. And so that would also take that off the tax rolls. So just want to be clear about that. Would there ever be the chance of low-income housing on the property? I've heard this concern from a few folks who are worried about the possibility because of tax credits being involved. And there are tax credits that address those type things, but none in this project. That said, since I'd heard that from a few folks, I'll commit to you that we will or that I will support and push putting a deed restriction in place that would specify that no housing of any nature, low income or not, would be put on the property. So I'll be glad to do that. And then I've also heard that this project would replace the walking trail with parking. I don't know where that came from. The county has no plans to do anything with the walking trail. If anything at all, enhance it in any way that we could and help the town to do that. But the town will retain that property. The county's not interested in the property that the walking trail is on. There's a road that's a dividing line there, and the county would have everything behind the road. The town would retain everything in front of it. There was some discussion about the buildings not being on the National Historic Registry. I think as of the latest that is still correct. The application's in the process. I think it meets all customary requirements. But since that's been mentioned, I guess what you're getting at is actually is true. But I'll just say if it doesn't get on the National Historic Registry, that's $3+ million tax credits we won't receive, so the project probably won't happen. That's one of those things that has to be kind of figured out, how we button that up in the contract before the third reading, before and I would imagine others could vote on it. And then urgency. Somebody said it seemed like we all of a sudden had a sense of urgency. We've been talking about this for over a year, so this isn't anything new. It's not something that just was dreamt up overnight. I just don't know where that came from. But again, we've been talking about this for over a year. If you're running for council and you didn't know about that, maybe you should have been involved a little bit earlier, and you would have known it. But otherwise, I just want to build a little bit more, and this is a part that I didn't have printed out, so forgive me if I get off track here. But this is the only thing that I see that we can do and that we can afford to do. It's not the ideal situation, but when you're in $40+ million of debt and you don't have the capacity to borrow any more money because of what somebody did before you, you don't get out of those holes by doing everything just as you wish and want to do them. You have to dig out of those holes. You have to work out of them. It's a tough job. Our jobs up here are tough. We don't sit up here, quite frankly, to make everybody happy. We don't sit up here to get reelected. We sit up here to make hard decisions, and that's why we're in these seats. And that's why it's important that we elect the right type people to be in these seats. But that said, I think it's a good suggestion that we've had by citizens and then council members as well to do a forum. We'll do that where folks can ask some more questions and we can provide some additional answers. And I look forward to doing that and thank everybody in advance for your participation. Anyone else? Mr. Roof.
Just briefly, I wanted to echo on what you said about the monument in Jenkinsville. I didn't know much about this at all until tonight. So I'm never in favor of anything that's controversial if it can be avoided, and I just don't see the point of moving a monument that is very apparent will cause controversy, and so I would be opposed to that. I don't think it's necessary. I think we need to do something there that most everybody can be in favor of and enjoy. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. At this time, we'll take a motion to go in executive session. We've got two items for tonight: a legal matter, update on litigation against SCANA, SCE&G in reference to the abandoned VC Summer new nuclear project, and proposed contractual matter, discussion regarding the development of a new county administration building to better serve the citizens of Fairfield County. Do we have a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded that council go into executive session for purposes as stated. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Council's now in executive session. Thank you.